This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Are you for medium-density housing or high-density housing? That's a question I get a lot. On this channel, we've made videos praising missing middle reforms in Edmonton, and talked about our affection for townhouses and walk-up apartments in Chicago. But we've also criticized the height limit in DC, and the misguided belief that European mid-rises are the universal ideal type of housing. In this video, I want to clarify how I think about housing and density, and cover the advantages of both types of development by sketching out my ideal housing reform. What would I do, broadly speaking, if I was put in charge of a province or a state trying to fix housing? First of all, should zoning just be abolished? Should it be anything goes on housing? Honestly, that would probably be better than what we have today. Absurd rules have turned high-demand cities into pressure cookers, displacing people and propelling urban sprawl. And then somehow we're surprised when rents go up and people get rent evicted. But I'm gonna say no on abolishing zoning. The video would have to end here, and that seems particularly detached from political reality. And I'm sympathetic to the desire for predictability, if not complete control over your neighborhood. The first pillar of housing reform that I'd like to see is broad upzoning, to allow low or mid-rise apartments everywhere, depending on the size of the city. Traditionally, the basic default zoning, R1, in most Canadian, Australian, and American cities, has allowed only single-family homes. From my perspective, this is wrong. Single-family homes can exist, but they should never be mandated. I think the basic default zoning everywhere should allow low-rise apartments like this one. You should be able to build up to 4 stories on every residential lot in every city or town. Buildings like this can provide a pretty decent amount of housing at modest size. For larger cities with bigger housing needs, the basic zoning should allow mid-rise apartments everywhere. For example, what if we allowed 6-story apartments like this one all across cities like Vancouver, Portland, and Brisbane? What about allowing 8-story buildings like this one by default across cities like Toronto, San Francisco, and Sydney? This wouldn't mean that all new buildings have to go to that height. Developers always have the option to build less dense than what's allowed, if they don't see enough demand or for any other reason. But yes, if you live in a major city, you should make your peace with the possibility of mid-rises everywhere, just like in much of Europe. As far as I'm concerned, there are 3 main advantages to broad upzoning for medium density. First, buildings like this tend to be cheaper to build than taller structures per square meter. That means they could potentially be priced cheaper, or they can provide bigger, more family-sized units for the same price. Second, this opens up the market to more developers working on smaller projects that don't need as much capital or financing as bigger projects. And third, this allows for change to be spread around the city, instead of concentrating all development and change into a few particular neighborhoods. My hope for ambitious, broad upzoning is influenced by having lived in Toronto, a city of profound geographic inequality. There was a big divide between the streets and even neighborhoods where you can live, if you're rich or old enough to own luxury, low-density housing, versus the pockets where everyone else is allowed to live. Typically in older apartments if you're low income, or newer condos if you're a middle-class professional but don't have generational wealth. Compared to this, Montreal was a breath of fresh air, literally. Some neighborhoods are more expensive than others, but there are apartments almost everywhere. There are far fewer places you're excluded from if you can't afford luxury, low-density housing. You can even live on quiet residential streets that in many cities are reserved for the most expensive type of housing. This is where I lose some people in the urbanist space though, because on top of broad upzoning, I'd also like to see a bunch of high-rises near transit. High-rises allow a lot of people to live in a small area, and when we have a node of high-capacity transportation infrastructure, like commuter rail, a metro or a subway station, a light rail station, or bus rapid transit, we want to maximize the number of people who can easily access it. Sure, you can get to a transit station from further away, with feeder buses, a bike ride, or a longer walk. But it's less convenient and you're less likely to do it. Fundamentally, you are more likely to take the subway or the light rail if you live within a 15-minute walk, compared to if you live further away. Here's a new building in Montreal that only goes up to 4 stories. That might be okay in some contexts, but my problem? There's a metro station right there. A 1-minute walk to the metro is amazing. If you live here, transit is so convenient and accessible. But we're clearly not trying to maximize the number of people who can live here. Every additional floor here would mean more people with green, affordable, convenient transportation at their doorstep. Literally. Even if you think real high-rises, above 10 stories, would mess with the feng shui or whatever, can we at least go to 8 stories? The height of 2 existing buildings here? Under basically the same logic, I think it's important to allow high rises in your job centers, especially downtown. Everyone who wants to live within easy walking or cycling distance of their job should be able to do so. It's good for the city and it's good for them. An underappreciated benefit of tall buildings: they require less demolition and displacement. Downtowns often have a lot of older apartment buildings. If you want to minimize the number of those that are torn down and their renters displaced, you should prefer a developer to build one 30-story building downtown as opposed to 3 10-story buildings. When I talk about wanting lots of density near transit in downtown, it's not just residential density that I'm talking about. Every single store, mall, or office that's located in a transit-accessible location and not out by a highway or something is a win. A lot of people are hung up on the fact that taller buildings cost more to build. I even mentioned that as an advantage of shorter buildings earlier. According to some data here in Canada, a large apartment tower might cost 30 to 60% more per square meter than shorter buildings. It depends on the city and what exactly you're comparing it to. To me, that's a reason to make sure we open up development opportunities that aren't just towers. But that doesn't mean that towers are bad, or that you protect affordability by banning them. A developer will only take on the additional cost of going taller if they see enough demand. Mandating that they build shorter buildings because they're cheaper, even if they don't meet housing demand, does not make housing more affordable and accessible. It's like going to a farm and telling them they're not allowed to buy expensive machines like tractors. Well, what if those expensive machines are how they grow enough food to meet demand? So that's how I think about housing and density. Broad upzoning for medium density housing everywhere, with the exact height depending on the size of the city and its housing needs. To provide cheaper or bigger units. To allow work for small-scale neighborhood developers. And to spread change around. But also more targeted upzoning to automatically allow high-rises within easy walking distance of transit stations and major job centers like downtown. To allow more people to walk, bike, and take transit, which is good for them and good for the city. To make the most of the public money we invest in transit infrastructure. And to give more outlets to meet housing demand. When paired with other smart reforms to parking and building codes, plus investing public money into social and supportive housing, that's a recipe for solving the housing crisis. So when people ask if I'm for medium-density housing or high-density housing, the answer is both in different contexts. As part of a bigger goal of increasing housing options, transportation options, and access to jobs and opportunity.